Ready for a glimpse into a future that sounds like it's straight out of science fiction?
Yeah, sign me up.
Today's deep dive takes us into Dario Amodei's Machines of Loving Grace. And what's really got me thinking is that this isn't just some tech optimist writing this. This is the CEO of Anthropic.
Right. An AI safety company.
Exactly. So when he gets optimistic about AI's potential, and not just way off in the future, but within our lifetime, well, let's just say it's worth paying attention to.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You've got someone who's deeply aware of the risks, but he wrote this essay as a deliberate counterpoint to all the AI doom-saying we're bombarded with these days.
He even addresses that head-on in the essay, doesn't he? Like, why now?
Yeah. Why write this when everyone's worried about rogue AI taking over the world?
Exactly.
And I think for him, it's about recognizing that this is a pivotal moment, that the choices we make today, in the midst of all this incredible potential and these very real dangers, well, those choices will determine what the future looks like.
So it's almost like he's offering us a vision, but not a guaranteed utopia, more like a target to aim for.
Yeah, exactly. To inspire action rather than just throwing our hands up in the air and saying, it's all too much.
Right, right. So not sugarcoating anything, but also not shying away from painting a picture of what could be. And one of the first things that really jumped out at me was this idea of creating a country of geniuses in a data center.
What an image.
I know. What does that even mean?
Well, he's really talking about powerful AI, but on a scale that's hard to wrap our heads around. I mean, think about the most brilliant Nobel Prize winner you can imagine.
Okay, got it. Someone at the absolute pinnacle of their field.
And Amodei is saying that we're on the cusp of AI that surpasses that level of intellect.
Wow.
In practically every field. Now, multiply that by 1 million, all working together, non-stop. That's the potential power he's describing.
Okay, so instead of just having access to, say, the world's best medical minds, we'd have access to something infinitely smarter.
Yes.
Working on problems around the clock.
Precisely. And Amodei is very clear about this. It's not as simple as flipping a switch and poof, all our problems are solved.
Right, it's not a magic wand.
Exactly. He really emphasizes that intelligence alone, even at that level, isn't a magic bullet.
Which is where his whole concept of marginal returns to intelligence comes in.
Right, because it's not about how smart AI gets in a vacuum. It's about how much that intelligence actually changes things in the real world.
It's like having this incredible, powerful engine, but we still need the right fuel, the right vehicle, a clear sense of where we're going.
100%. And I think that's what makes this conversation so interesting. It's not just about celebrating AI's potential. It's about really grappling with the nuances of its application in the real world.
Totally. And understanding the interplay between AI and all these other factors that ultimately will determine its impact. So we've got this powerful engine, but where do we point it? Amodei doesn't hold back on specifics. And one area he gets really fired up about is biology and healthcare. He actually predicts that AI could cram 50 to 100 years worth of progress. Wow.
Into the next 5 to 10.
That's moving at the speed of light.
I know, right? It sounds insane, but when you really consider the potential of AI, not just as a tool for research, but as a researcher itself,
right,
the timeline starts to make a little more sense.
It's kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
So AI, as the scientist, instead of just crunching numbers, it's actually designing the experiments, connecting the dots that even the smartest humans might miss.
Exactly. Amodei argues that breakthroughs like CRISPR, mRNA vaccines, those were just glimpses of what's possible. He thinks there are hundreds of discoveries of that magnitude just waiting to be unlocked if we were, well, just smarter.
If we could think at a higher level.
Right. And AI could be the key to unlocking that next level.
Okay, so less eureka moment, more like eureka. Every Tuesday for the next decade.
Yeah, something like that.
I like those odds. But let's get specific.
Mm-hmm.
What does this actually look like? What kind of future is he envisioning? We'll buckle up because some of this is straight out of science fiction. He talks about a world where infectious diseases, even ones we haven't encountered yet, are a thing of the past.
Wait, beyond vaccines? Like, we just don't get sick from those kinds of things anymore.
That's the idea. He believes we're on the verge of technologies driven by AI that could make our bodies essentially immune. And it's not just about reacting to existing diseases. He sees AI helping us predict and prevent outbreaks before they even happen.
Okay, so that's huge. What about chronic illnesses, things like cancer that touch so many lives?
Amodei predicts a 95% reduction in both cancer deaths and new cases.
95%? That's almost eradication.
It's incredible, right? Imagine that for a second. Cancer, which has haunted humanity for, millennia, becomes about as rare as, I don't know, the bubonic plague is today.
It's almost hard to even wrap your head around. Think of all the families who wouldn't have to face that kind of loss, all the fear that would just lift from so many people's lives.
Exactly.
Mm.
And it doesn't stop there. He talks about genetic diseases being preventable before birth, even curable in people already living with them.
Wow.
He sees AI helping us crack the code on Alzheimer's, potentially even preventing it altogether.
So we're not just talking about living longer, but living healthier for longer. But I mean, 100 years of progress in 10 years, that's got to have some major ripple effects. What does that even do to society?
That's where it gets really interesting. Because Amodei doesn't just drop these predictions and walk away. He acknowledges the massive social, economic, even philosophical shifts this kind of progress would trigger. It would force us to fundamentally rethink our relationship with work, with aging, with life itself.
It's like hitting fast forward on human evolution, and that's just healthcare. He doesn't stop at just fixing our bodies, does he? Amodei also dives headfirst into AI's potential to transform neuroscience, to help us understand the human mind in ways we haven't even imagined yet. You know, it's funny, we spend so much time thinking about living longer, healthier lives, but what about the quality of those lives? Oh, absolutely.
Amodei doesn't stop with just fixing our bodies. He goes all in on AI's potential to transform neuroscience, right?
Yeah, like completely revolutionize it.
To help us understand and maybe even improve the human mind itself.
It's one of the most fascinating and potentially transformative aspects of his whole vision. Amodei really believes that AI could help us unlock levels of mental well-being that, frankly, we've never even come close to experiencing.
Okay, now we're really getting into uncharted territory. So we're talking about things like depression, anxiety, addiction, all those challenges that just feel so deeply, human.
Exactly. He believes AI could be the key to finally unraveling all the complexities of the brain, which would then lead to actual cures for these mental illnesses that we currently have very limited solutions for.
It's almost like, what comes to mind is like AI-powered drug discovery.
Yeah.
Or treatments that are tailored to your specific brain structure.
Oh, absolutely. Or imagine like behavioral therapies that are so much more effective than anything we have today. So almost like having an AI therapist that's available to you 24/7, but not just any therapist, one that actually understands how your mind works on this really deep level.
Precisely. It's like having a completely personalized approach to mental health.
I mean, it sounds amazing, but I have to admit, it's also a little bit unnerving, right?
Oh, of course. It's totally understandable to feel that way. This is brand new territory. And to his credit, Amodei doesn't shy away from the ethical questions at all.
Good, because those are important conversations to be having.
100%. But he also outlines these possibilities that are just, they're hard to ignore. I mean, what if AI could help us actually enhance our creativity, deepen our capacity for empathy, or even increase our ability to experience joy?
Okay, now that raises some serious questions. Are we talking about, like, engineering happiness? Where do we draw the line?
That's the crucial point. And Amodei is very clear. He is not talking about somehow manufacturing some artificial state of bliss. For him, it's about recognizing that there's this incredible potential within each of us already. And AI could help us remove the obstacles, whether they're biological, chemical, even societal, that are preventing us from reaching that potential.
So less about creating something artificial, more about helping us become, I don't know, the best versions of ourselves.
Exactly.
That's a really important distinction. But let's shift gears for a moment because I want to make sure we have time to talk about this. All of this progress is incredibly exciting, but Amodei also tackles a really tough question.
Yeah, he does.
How do we make sure these advancements benefit everyone, not just a select few?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Sure.
It's one thing to develop these incredible technologies. It's another thing entirely to ensure equitable access. And Amodei acknowledges that, AI could exacerbate existing inequalities, but he's not resigned to that outcome at all.
So what does a more equitable future powered by AI actually look like? How do we get there?
Well, for Amodei, it starts with recognizing AI's power as a tool. For example, he believes AI could completely revolutionize how we allocate resources, making aid efforts infinitely more efficient, more targeted, and ultimately more impactful.
That makes sense.
He also points out that even basic health improvements, things that we take for granted when they're driven by AI and become accessible on a global scale, that can have this incredible ripple effect, boosting productivity, creating opportunities in developing nations, lifting people out of poverty.
It's a good reminder that this isn't just about charity. This is about creating a more stable and prosperous world for everyone.
Exact.
But, I mean, let's be honest, technology alone can't solve everything.
Oh, definitely not.
There are always going to be human factors, political roadblocks, people who, for whatever reason, just resist change. How does Amodei address that?
He's very clear that none of this is inevitable. It's going to require conscious effort, collaboration on a global scale, and a real commitment to justice. We have to start thinking beyond national borders and prioritize the well-being of all humanity. He doesn't pretend to have all the answers,
Right.
but he offers a really powerful call to action.
And what is that call to action? What does he want us to do with all this information, all this potential?
He wants us to be inspired, yes, but more importantly, he wants us to be active participants in shaping this future. Don't just sit back and wait for it to happen. Engage in these conversations. Demand ethical development. Demand equitable distribution of these advancements. I think more than anything, he's reminding us that the future isn't something that just happens to us. It's something that we create through the choices we make today.
You know, it's so easy to get caught up in the wow factor of AI, all the amazing things it could do. But Amodei's essay is a powerful reminder that the most important questions, they aren't technological, they're human ones.
100%.
Questions about values, about purpose, about what kind of world we want to build for ourselves and for future generations.
Exactly. And that's ultimately what he leaves us with, this really powerful message. The future isn't preordained. It's a choice. And it's up to us collectively to choose wisely.
This deep dive has taken us on quite a journey. From eradicating diseases to enhancing our minds, from tackling global poverty to redefining what it even means to be human in an age of AI.
It really makes you think.
It's a lot to process, and we encourage you to sit with these ideas. Don't just take our word for it. Explore them further, and maybe even more importantly, engage in these critical conversations with your own communities. Because, as Amodei so powerfully reminds us, the future is not something to be predicted. It's something to be created.